I change clothes like my hoes. I love designer, and I change my flows like who knows. I want the commas, many Hondas.
5 important things were stated at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen. And for once, I gotta give Jujutsu Kaisen a round of applause because normally they're known for being the dark, brooding, mysterious anime that just likes to do things and not explain. But for once, they actually gave us a little bit of synopsis to where things are gonna be going moving forward after the Shibuya incident. And I have to say, man, guys, these 5 things get crazy. So without further ado, let's get into the video and explain these 5 things and how and what that means going forward. For starters, they are saying that they confirmed that Suguru Geto is alive, and so his death sentence is now reinstated, which is kind of like a redundant statement that's kind of like, you know, that goes without saying. Next, they deemed Satoru Gojo as an accomplice in the Shibuya incident, and they hereby expel him from the Jujutsu Society, also meaning that if you attempt to break his seal, it will be seen as a crime. They also expelled Masamichi Yaga, who is the principal of Jujutsu Tokyo School, for, they say, inciting, hint, hint, inciting Suguru Geto and Satoru Gojo, and he also is to be executed. Fourth, Yuji's execution is now reinstated and the suspension is no longer there, and he's now reinstated to be executed immediately at once. And 5, Yuji's executioner is meant to be none other than Yuta Okotsu, the one and only, the Chad, the him, the only one that probably could take over for Satoru Gojo. But this is going to be a doozy of a video, watching this, breaking it down, and finally helping you guys maybe understand a little bit of what's going on with the Shibuya incident now that season 2 is over. So make sure you like and subscribe before we get into it, and definitely share with a friend, and leave a comment at any point wherever you feel like I might have messed up or made a mistake, or if you want to add anything in. So for starters, them reinstating the executions on Yuji, as well as giving execution orders for the principal, and them telling anyone that freeing Gojo would be seen as a crime, says a lot about Jujutsu Society. This says that they are afraid of those who have more power than them. Now let me explain. Obviously, we know that Gojo has always kind of been a threat. His literal moniker is the strongest. It's hard to, you know, have some trust in someone that can defeat everyone in your society and basically turn this whole thing upside down. It's kind of like a Superman clause. What if Superman was to one day go evil or go crazy? Who would stop him then? So of course, you're always going to be wary of a character like that. Now, to just oppose this, Masamichi Yaga, the principal, is actually a very powerful sorcerer in his own regard. He's a grade 1 sorcerer that actually could be a special grade sorcerer, because his ability to create corpses that can act and have their own autonomy is basically parallel to none. He created Panda. He's Panda's father. If you didn't know that, let me know in the comments, but he is Panda's father. And he also taught Panda how to fight. So he's a very well-known sorcerer and well-regarded sorcerer in that regard. So that being said, it just seems fishy to the Jujutsu Society how Geto's still alive, even though Gojo promised that he killed him himself. Geto's still alive, and he's incited the whole Shibuya incident. So it makes sense that they would blame Gojo and the principal for all of this, because they were all under the principal's watch. So it's kind of like someone has to fall and take the blame in that chain of hierarchy. Now, we know why they're scared of Yuji. Without Gojo around to, you know, keep Yuji in check, who can defeat him? We saw what he did in the Shibuya incident. We saw what he did in Thunderclap, guys. It got crazy. Like, it really got insane. So I really don't blame them for reinstating Yuji's execution. But now my real question is Yuta and Rika up to the task? Now, that might be a video for another day, but what I do love was Yuta's appearance in that episode, Shibuya incident, gate closed. Man, he came in, I'm not gonna lie, he came in, I thought he was Toji the way he came in. He came in like a Chad. He came in like a boss, like a real boss, man. He hopped in, he killed some curse spirit, saved some little kid, all cool and swaggy, with that same demeanor of nonchalantness. Like, he's really gonna be a problem, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna kill Yuji. And if he says it, I don't know, the way he's saying it, I kind of believe him, but we'll see, man. That's why we gotta let things play out. Manga guys, don't spoil anything for my young guys, but you know what I'm saying? Just to leave this in before we move on from Yuta, it's good to see that he still kept the Rika ability, because if you watch the Jujutsu Kaisen 0, it seemed as if Rika was exercised and he wouldn't have his ability anymore, but apparently from what we've seen, he still has Rika, so he's still a force to be reckoned with. And man, he is taking no prisoners. He's on that bullshit, excuse my language, but he is ready for war, man. The next season might just be good. I don't know, I kind of hate on Shibuya, but I think the next season might be just as good. Hopefully they don't take forever to let us watch it. Before we leave off, we must discuss 2 important characters, so don't go anywhere. Like and subscribe and share with a friend, because the video is just getting started. we have Tengen or Master Tengen, and then we also have Kenjaku. These two characters are very important because they actually have lived a lot longer than a lot of the characters that we are familiar with now. So their history kind of spills over into the future or the present series of what we're watching right now. Tengen or Master Tengen is also known as the Star, and he's actually responsible for preaching the foundation of Jujutsu to Jujutsu sorcerers. And basically, he's like the god of Jujutsu Kaisen world because his innate ability is actually called immortality. And like it suggests, it allows him to live forever. However, his body does die, so he needs to transfer his essence into different vessels every 500 years or so. That's who we saw at the beginning, that girl who was later dispatched by Toji. She was a Plasma Star vessel for that time in 2006. But however, because Tengen wasn't able to transfer his essence, he's actually been evolving and transcending humanity as of right now. I don't really know what that means, but his humanoid form is changing into a more alien-like type form. He has 4 eyes and a strange form, but he still has kept his conscience for now. We'll see how long he can maintain it until he better find a new vessel. And it's funny enough, I should stop calling him he because he's actually transcended gender and now he's just a they. He's not a he or a she, he's just a they because he's transcending. Back to him being like the kind of like the god of Jujutsu Kaisen like society. This is why a lot of religious groups have spawned to worship him. They worship the Star as some type of deity. Funny enough though, he is a non-combatant, so he actually wouldn't be stronger than Gojo. So don't try and make some Gojo versus Tengen. It's kind of like Xeno from the Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Like, he is the god, but that doesn't mean he's a combatant. He's a non-combatant. I don't think you can really put him up against Goku or Vegeta. Another important ability are his barriers, which he uses to conceal the Jujutsu Kaisen schools. And he also uses conceal where he actually stays, where his body stays, which is the Tomb of the Stars. And another thing I might mention that's worth mentioning is he's the most potent barrier user in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Another important character, of course, is Kenjaku, because his motives aren't very clear. And Jujutsu Kaisen already is a very confusing show. Like, when the battles start and they're trying to explain their abilities and stuff, like, already we're all lost and confused. But Kenjaku is just such a cryptic villain that honestly he goes there in one of my top tier for villains because he's just so hard to understand. And when you don't know a villain's motives, that kind of makes him a good villain, because when you kind of know a villain's plan, it kind of makes them less mysterious. And when they're less mysterious, it takes away from the lore. But Kenjaku, we just still don't know what he wants. Like, it's kind of annoying. So far what we know is he said that he wants to reinstate Heian, which is the golden age of Jujutsu. Not really sure why. And then he talks about all this chaos and he needed to let the world go into chaos. That's the only way he would get what he wanted, and he was limited by his body every time. Hard to explain. Let me know in the comments if you can give me a concise direction without spoiling it, without going into all the next arcs and stuff, of what Kenjaku really wants. Like, if you can give me that, then let me know in the comments. But basically it seems like he gave a lot of Jujutsu sorcerers, or maybe non-sorcerers, he gave them abilities and he amplified their abilities in order to make them fight one another. And I guess that's what's going to spill into the Culling Game arc, which should be next, the Culling Game arc, which is the 9th arc by Gege Akutami. But Kenjaku is a very interesting character because he has the ability of curse manipulation, which he stole from Suguru Geto. It's kind of like Shikigami ability, but better, because you consume their abilities, like as we saw what he did with Mahito, which was really messed up, but very cool. And also he has the ability of, I don't know because they don't name it, but it is his innate technique, which allows him to basically steal bodies. And through that, he also keeps the techniques of the bodies that he steals. Also, with now coupled with the ability of Geto's curse manipulation, he's able to use other curses innate techniques. This is how we saw him use Idol Transfiguration, which is Mahito's technique after he absorbed Mahito. So he's a big problem right now, guys. And because he switched bodies and he's been living for over 400 years, he has so much knowledge and intellect, so it's very hard to outsmart him or thwart him. He reminds me a lot of Vandal Savage from the DC universe, who was always a very hard enemy to defeat for Batman because his ability was just immortality. So he was so smart because he lived so long. So he always made it a way of getting in the way of Batman's plans because of his intellect. But before I leave you guys off, let me just break down the arcs and what's next to expect from Jujutsu Kaisen before we get out of here. So there are 11 arcs, depending on who you ask, and the Shibuya incident would be the 7th, depending on who you ask, of course. And what's next, we have Itadori's extermination arc, and then the real arc that I'm excited for is the Culling Game arc, which should be 9th. But this was the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think I got a lot of more JJK content coming soon because we just gotta make the JJK content, man. It's really getting good. It's really heating up. Hopefully they don't take too long between the next season so things start start cooling down. You know how I feel about that. But you know what I'm saying? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Leave a comment for me, share with a friend. And as always, before you go, remember to always find your zen, your final form. Catch you in the next one, guys.
And I change clothes like my hoes. I love designer, and I change my flows like who knows. I want the commas.